Dice Tower Tonight, episode 117.
How to be the game host with the most.
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a videocast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, Crystal and I are planning a game night, or afternoon, or the whole dang day, and we're sharing our tips. Should you buy the regular Flamin' Hot Cheetos or the family size? We have the answer. Plus, Crystal has something for me in the chat to play. We've got some recent play sessions to talk about, and our usual shenanigans with the live audience. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, the Jadzia to my Cisco, it's Crystal Dax.
Oh, I love it. And oh yeah, that's yeah. I mean, Deep Space Nine. It's just you've got my heart there.
Sure. Can't go wrong with that one. How's it going, Crystal?
It's going pretty good. It's Wednesday. We're here with the chat, who is always lovely and already very active, which we love from you all. Thank you so much for that. And I'm excited to talk to you, talk about some games, and talk about a game night and how to prep for that. It is a topic I think we've touched on before,
Sure.
But I know more people are starting to venture out, outside of their bubbles, and So we thought it was an apropos topic to bring up again.
Absolutely. We'll get to that. I know I've got one coming up on the horizon in about a month or so, planning like a big reunion of the folk, my old game group, coming up to the house and doing something. So I'm looking forward to tips you can share and talking through a few things. But we should jump right in and talk about some games. What do you think?
Absolutely. If you don't mind, I'm going to go first tonight.
Go for it. Plunge away.
Awesome. So last episode, we talked about some of the games that we discovered at Dice Tower West. And obviously, it's pretty hard to pack an entire 5-day convention into one episode of our show.
Sure.
And so tonight, I'm actually going to tell you about a game that I was taught at Dice Tower West that I then immediately purchased and have now played since then as well, which I'd say that says something about it. It is one that had completely slipped past my radar, and it is called Last Message. This is a game from Yellow, so it's not like a little publisher, it's Yellow, and somehow, your face implies you had not heard about this one either, Eric. Is that true?
No, I've never seen or heard of this before.
So Last Message is technically a one versus many game, where two of the players are a victim and a murderer, and the rest of the players are investigators trying to suss out the murderer's identity, who they are. And there are 6 different sheets that come with the game that all have Where's Waldo style illustrations on them.
I'm gonna make you full screen so we can see that.
Okay, yeah. You if you can't see all the detail, that's probably fine and intentional. So this one is the alien one. On the back side of that, we have the cavemen, and there's also a superhero one and a few others that come with the game. And the victim and murderer have a shield that blocks their view from all the other players. And they collectively decide which little character on the sheet that is chosen for that particular game is the murderer. They pick it together, they agree, and then they put a little token on it to signify what it is. And then the victim has to communicate information from beyond the grave to the investigators as to the identity of the murderer. The way they do that is via a dry erase sheet that is separated into 9 rectangles. Okay. They can draw and write on that sheet for 1 minute, 30 seconds, whatever. There's a timer in the box. I think it's 30 seconds. It's not a lot of time. They can draw and write whatever they want on it. But every round, the murderer gets to erase a number of those squares before that gets passed to the investigator. So for instance, if on the alien sheet that I just showed you, the victim might do something like this, where they write out and draw out a bunch of clues as to the identity of the murderer. But then, before it gets passed over, the murderer is going to go, well, that's too helpful. So he's going to erase. In each round, the number of squares that gets erased gets less and less, so it does get easier as the game progresses. But in the first round, 5 squares get erased by the murderer. And so at the end of the day, you end up with something that looks a little bit like this. And that gets passed over to the investigators, and now they have a bunch of not super complete or clear info. when, like, okay, that says helmet, but did it say something else with helmet or whatever else? Like, is that important? Is that, because you could give clues not just about the identity of the murderer, but also the people around or the items around them to try and narrow down like which part of the board it's on. You might give geographical clues, like if there's like a cliff or a waterfall or something. And so each round, the investigators will get more and more information, and they get to keep these sheets. And after, let's see, it'd be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I think 5 rounds. If the identity of the murderer has not been sussed out, then the murderer wins. If the victims can identify the murderer, they win. It's really, I mean, fairly straightforward, right, in its premise, but very unique. Like, this to me feels very different than clue giving in most games that I've been privy to. And obviously, I may not have given the best clues or erased the right squares since I was doing it so quickly. Obviously, you would put more thought into it than I did. And what's neat is the different boards. The ones that I showed you are the ones that the victim and murderer look at. They're smaller, but those boards are actually blown up into larger images that come in 4 different squares. So the investigators have a larger version of the image to look at. This is only half of one of them.
Oh, okay.
So you get a little bit, it's a little easier to see what's going on if you're on the investigator side.
Yeah.
Like that's part of what that one looks, I don't know what that one is. This one's superheroes. There's lots of fun stuff going on basically on all of these sheets. And Where's Waldo is really the only cultural reference that I can make to this style of drawing. It's just a lot of things going on that are all kind of similar, but not exactly the same generally. In one game I played, the murderer on the superhero sheet was like a blue Batman that had Wolverine claws, like looking like guy. And he was giving really good clues, and I was leaving some of the good clues unerased, thinking that the people would be like, oh, well, if she left that, it's clearly not that important of a clue. And so there's a lot of metagame that can happen with it. I really like this one. It came out of nowhere for me. I hadn't heard about it previously. I do like a lot of Yellow's games of this weight. So I'm not really surprised that I ended up liking it. But yeah, I was very happy that one of the friendly local game stores from here in Las Vegas had a booth at the con, and they were selling it. So I just immediately picked up my own copy of Last Message. And if that sounds like your jam, if you like drawing, writing games, or, trying to find tiny details in a large picture that's Where's Waldo style, this one might be for you.
That is very, very cool. Jeremiah brings up the thought that because of the colors, it could be tricky for colorblind players. But I guess
I imagine that could be the case. But what's interesting and kind of neat about it is there's a lot of things other than color to use as points of reference. So I am not colorblind. I can't speak completely to this, but I believe that you could probably modify it and just say, okay, color clues we can't use, so all clues have to be non-color related. And I think you could probably still make it work. But again, I'm just speaking based on my impressions that I can't speak completely to that fact.
DJ Dan says that they've solved the game. You just have to write all of the clues in each square really, really fast.
So I did not mention the rule that you cannot write or draw the same thing more than once in any given round. So if star was really important, you cannot draw a star in every single square, because then, yes, the murderer wouldn't be able to erase it. So any given thing that you write or draw can only be done once per round. You can write it again in subsequent rounds. And, again, like what you saw I did, you write a word that spreads out over multiple squares, so then only part of it will get erased.
Right.
But yeah, it's a fun one. This is the type of thing that I love that happens at conventions, where somebody pulls out a game from a company and like, and you're like, wait, how have I not heard of this? So
that's what happens.
I imagine. Yeah.
When you've got somebody, a company like Yellow that has tons of releases, it's easy to miss one. That's neat.
Absolutely. And I should actually give a shout out to the person who taught it to me, because fans of the Dice Tower will be very familiar with Derek Wigsby, who used to be the video editor here at the Dice Tower. He's actually the one that taught it to me.
Oh, sweet. He didn't.
Yeah, I just realized, I was like, wait, you all know Derek, so I should give him a shout out. So yeah, Derek is the one that taught it to me, and it was nice to hang out with him again. I hadn't seen him in quite a while.
Yes, it was great to see Derek. I did get to hang out, but he didn't see fit to teach me this game, so.
Oh, well, then you'll just have to have some words with him later.
Later, Derek. Anyway, speaking of games that you've just like totally missed, I have a title from 2020, which is sort of the great big abyss when game releases got delayed and may have released and may not have released, and the whole machine that promotes them wasn't in action in 2020 and early 2021, and so these games sort of disappeared. And this is from Inside Up Games. It's called City Builder Ancient World, which isn't the most interesting of titles, but
I was
City
thinking
Builder.
the exact same thing. I was like, that's a boring title.
You got these folks checking out this building of a city, and they're looking at plans and trying to make the best city possible. This is a tile-laying game that has both a cooperative and competitive mode. So you have to choose which one you're going to play at the beginning of the game. We'll talk about the competitive first, just to get the mechanisms down. But the tiles all have features on them. They call them landmarks. Let's see if that's going to focus properly. It's probably not, but you can see that there are white-roofed residences, and then there are those landmarks which come in 4 colors. That was a green Colosseum. There's also a red something or other. There's also a white statue on that one. That's a wild. Where else? That's a lake. That's not helpful. There's a yellow Parthenon sort of column thing, and then there's a blue that I set aside at the beginning of the show and now can't find. There we go. There's a blue. So there's 4 colors of landmarks, and then there's white buildings. They're also separated by these roads that turn them into clusters. So eventually, and this is going to be impossible to show you while holding up multiple. So you build something, let's say like that, and then you get another. Stick it like that, and then if I had a 4th hand, I could make this into a unit that's now divided. If I were to somehow close that up, you make a district out of, surrounded by these.
I do have to point out that you did just say if I had a 4th hand, so that means you do have a secret 3rd hand that we're not aware of. Just saying.
Let's not talk about that. I wasn't supposed to reveal that. If I could have held a 4th tile, I could have shown you how that all worked. So you've created a district, and it's going to have a certain number of landmarks and a certain number of residences in them. And you are trying to place these little dudes. They're not even really dudes, they're buildings. So there's like a small house. That is a commoner. And then there's a much larger palace-like thing. That actually looks more like a person. But that's a noble. So you've got a commoner and a noble, and they're quite obviously different people. So the orange commoner wants to see the orange landmark, the one with the pillars, and one other color of landmark. So I could have the yellow one or the orange one and a red one. And then as long as I have a residence, one of those white-roofed buildings, I can place this guy down. Makes sense? But I could also, if I had the yellow and the red, I could also place a red one down because I'd have the red building and another color. So I could have placed a red one as well if I had multiple residences. Those nobles are harder to place. They want to see 2 of that color. So 2 reds and 1 other color, and they can get placed there. Purples are even worse. So, where's the purple? A purple commoner wants to see 3 different colors of landmarks, and a purple noble wants all 4 of them. That's where those little statues come in handy. So, in the competitive game, and this is going to be difficult to show, but this is between the players. Don't tilt too far or it all falls down. You're good. This is between the players. It's all fine. Everything's fine.
It's fine.
Between the players, and you've got one of these next to you and me, Crystal, and then one next to me and Suzanne over there. And then there'd be one between you and Suzanne. You can only take the characters that are closest to you. So there's 3 columns here, like this. 1 set of nobles, and then 2 commoners, and I can take from that direction as I place them on my board, as I'm placing the tiles down. And as I remove them, and this is where it's going to be impossible to show you without knocking everything over. Oh, I lost one. I'll find it later. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Okay, chat. At the end of the episode, everyone remind Eric that he needs to get the piece off the floor.
There are points listed here. And so I'm working my way closer to my opponent, and the purples start out in the center, and they're worth more points. But you can't remove the last one. So my opponent is building this way, and I'm building this way. As soon as there's only one left, we both have to stop building in that column. So it's sort of a tug of war to see who can push farthest fastest to get more points before their opponent stops them from building in that column. You can also build these neat little monuments, which have to be built in this sort of rectangular plot, and they require certain landmarks to be in it, and they give you points for this. Was slide all commoners on both settler tracks one space toward your opponents, so you get to earn more points. It's a very powerful building if you can manage to place it. That's the competitive game. You work through all of the tiles and see who earns the most points. The cooperative game, instead of flipping, oh, I had an extra. I could have shown you this side with all the points on it, without all the things on it. You're looking at the other side in the cooperative game, and you're going to be pulling the visitors. They show up at the city gates, and if they ever overwhelm the city gates, you lose. So you have to remove the settlers from the city gates and work your way down this way. And if you ever draw the same color right next to each other, that becomes the noble. So that's the sort of the fires that you're trying to put out. And your goal is to put those monuments out on the board, which have specific goals. Like this city must have a street that is 5 tiles long in a continuous straight line. And so somebody on your team goes, all right, I think I can work toward that. I can build toward that. I'm going to get that monument in my city. And if you get enough of those completed before you run out of tiles, while still following all the rules and making sure that the city gates aren't flooded, you win the game. I think I prefer the cooperative game. And that's not just because I tend to really like co-op games. I think the puzzle is stronger, and it is more unique and interesting. Trying to decide who's going to take what task, how to build toward that, what tiles to leave, because you're picking from a face-up array, which ones to leave for your teammates to grab. The competitive game is also interesting. That race and that tug of war is cool, but it feels not as different from other things, whereas the co-op game is a cool challenge, and I really liked it that way.
It sounds like a neat puzzle.
Yes. The components are really nice. You saw the meeples. These boards are, it's actually a triple layer because it's 2-sided. So this is a double layer on this side, and it's a double layer on this side, making 3. They're very thick tiles. The box itself has a really tight, well-organized insert, almost too tight. It's like you got to squeeze everything in to get the lid on, but it means everything sort of stays put. So City Builder Ancient World is worth a look if you missed it as it went by, even with its somewhat boring title.
All right. I mean, yeah, there have been plenty of games that exist that the titles did not do the see, picking it up now, that's a smart play.
Just hit my head. Oh, no. I found it, though. We're all good.
Okay.
Everything's fine.
Oh. All right. Well, that's what you and I have been playing recently, but I think it's about time to play a game with the chat. What do you think, Eric?
I think we should do that. That sounds like a good idea.
Well, then, chat, we're going to play an old favorite. And Eric, I'll need you to drop the link into the chat so people can join us for a game on Board Game Arena. We're going to play Similo, everyone.
Yay!
And so they recently added some new decks on Board Game Arena, so we have more options now than we did before, at least in this specific venue for the game. I am going to be the clue giver for this first game, and if the first game goes quickly, most likely because I screw it up royally, then we may play a second game as well. So this is kind of first in gets a seat, and everybody else in the chat, you'll be seeing Eric's side of things, so you can still help guess in the chat. But with the YouTube delay, it's a little bit more difficult. So those of you who do decide to hop in the game via Board Game Arena, just make sure that you are keeping an eye on things and, clicking things in a timely manner. I do have timers turned on. Mr. Coaster in the chat says, uh-oh, Similo. We've got 4 more seats available, so although by the time you've heard me say that, that will likely not be the case, so I'm not quite sure why I'm saying that.
All right, and I will adjust the size of the window as best I can. I know we we're able to make it larger and smaller at one point. We'll see. It's fun juggling all the windows to make sure you can see everything.
Yeah.
All right, so just a few more people. There's a couple slots available. How many slots did we have?
A total of 8. So 6 were for chat specifically, and as of now, we've got 2 left. So once a couple of people sit down at the table, we will be able to get started. There are timers on, so if somebody doesn't know how to play Similo, just kind of run with it. We'll explain as we go, but it's not too difficult of a game, at least mechanically, it's not difficult. And we are playing with the character deck being wild animals and the clue deck being history. I actually played the reverse of this last night, where the character deck was history and the clue deck was wild animals. So I'm excited to play the opposite of that.
Okay.
And we've almost got a full table now. So once one more person hops in, we'll get started. I can see people sitting around the table on Board Game Arena.
Some people don't want to play. They don't want to be.
There we
they
go.
don't want to have that. Oh, I need to make sure I say yes. I accept. I will play this game.
Yep. All right.
And then I will need to adjust the screen.
Yes. So what you all are going to see as not the clue givers is a grid of characters. It says we're waiting on one player to start. Let's see if. There we go.
There we go.
So yes, you see a grid of 12 wild animals. And on my side of things, one of those cards has been selected as the card that I am trying to get you all to eventually guess. I have to give clues to you all from the history deck. And if I play the cards upright, I am saying that the target card is like the card that I am playing in some way. If I play the cards horizontally, I am saying that the target card is unlike the card that I am playing. So in this first round, all you all have to do is remove a single card from the grid. So let's see here. Looking at my history cards. I'm going to say... Okay, so I'm confirming my selection. So I have said that Hypatia, I think it's one of those, for the record, nobody knows how her name is pronounced, and there was literally a joke in The Good Place about that. We discussed this last night. But I'm saying that she is not like the target card, and you all are voting to remove a card. So you do not want to guess what you think the card is. You want to guess what you think the card isn't.
Okay, now we get the...
And
somebody's already voted.
Feel free to... Well, so they can put their tokens out without confirming. So everybody can put their tokens out, but once they click confirm, they cannot change it. And then the majority, whatever card gets the majority of votes, will... I'm
liking the color scheme of the llama being removed. That seems like a straightforward color for color match. Although some folks are saying the gorilla. I'm not sure I get the gorilla. The walrus, maybe. Oh, others voting for the walrus. Okay. I mean, I'm not against
and
the walrus.
If there is ever a tie for the number of votes, then the person who has the little crown icon will break that tie. So
I've confirmed. You do need to lock in your vote when you decide that you've locked in.
Yes, we have 2 people that have not confirmed their votes yet.
So I locked in the llama, and
okay.
Are going for the walrus. I'm not sure I get the reasoning on the walrus.
The world may never know.
The world may never know.
This first round is usually not super difficult, but yes, the green player, you need to confirm your vote, please.
Yeah, I guess.
Stumper00 fan. Okay, there we go.
Looks like the walrus is out. Were we correct?
Yep.
Are we still alive? Okay.
You're still alive.
Okay.
All right, so then I'm going to confirm my next clue for you all.
Pocahontas? Is that
yes. It is Pocahontas, and I played it vertically, so that means that the target card has something in common with the card I just played.
Hypatia? Not like Hypatia. Yes, like Pocahontas. I mean, that's a really strong pink color. I'd say we might want to preserve the flamingo. Or feathers in her feathered headdress. Yeah, I'm gonna. Everybody seems to be going for the llama. I'm gonna go for the llama as well. Not everybody's agreeing with the llama though. Nope, they're back in. I'm not getting the prompt to confirm my vote this time. Maybe do we all need to be in?
I don't know.
It's saying we need to vote for the character cards to remove.
7. Oh, so you have to vote for 2 cards this time.
Oh,
so
right.
That's probably why.
2 cards. Right. I remember how to play Similo.
You and I both had a brain fart at the same time.
Okay.
So yes.
I will
Everybody needs to vote to remove 2 cards this round.
And now I will confirm that in. I'm thinking that the feather might have something to do with the card we need to keep. There is that curl in Hypatia's hair that could be useful. As a side note, I'm currently narrating a book about Greek mythology, and I have had to deal with some wacky names.
Oh gosh, I can only imagine.
Which is super
Yeah,
fun.
no, there's a scene in The Good Place where she is encountered, and Lisa Kudrow plays the character, and they literally ask her how to pronounce her name, and she goes, "Just call me Patty." All right, y'all did excellent.
We're still
now I have to
alive.
pick another card. Let's see here. Okay, so
Kabuki says maybe there are clues to the geographical location of the animals.
I mean, you can go as deep or as surface level as you want with.
Crystal has paused for a moment. She's back.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
hi.
Hello.
And I've given
Lincoln.
you all another clue.
Hello, Abraham Lincoln. Well.
So now you all have to vote to remove 3 cards. So put 3 tokens out, everyone who's playing.
I mean, that could mean something about the Americas. Yes for Lincoln. That expression on Lincoln is very stern. I don't know if I want to remove the gorilla. I'm not really going for the gorilla. I'll remove the iguana. And the snake. And... oh, there's a lot of birds, though. I'm going to support the penguin going away. That's my thought. I think the iguana is out, and I think the snake is out. I'm not sure I get the reasoning on the... yeah, the reasoning on the gorilla. I'm going to confirm.
Okay. Well, let's see how y'all did.
All right. We're removing things.
You're alive!
I was worried about the alligator, since we've had 2 American clues.
Okay.
Tall, stern, strong for Lincoln.
Let me see here.
Bettina says the card to keep is the toucan. Maybe. I still like flamingo as a candidate for hanging around.
Let's see.
Yeah, I like the grumpy face on the gorilla. Could be that Crystal's playing the long game. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
This is Catherine the Great, Russian Empress, the longest ruling female leader of the Russian Empire. Not like Catherine the Great. And we have to remove 4 cards this time.
4. This is the hardest round by far. Well, the last round sometimes can be real tough depending on which 2 get left, but
the pelican reminds me of Catherine the Great. I think I'm going to put my token on that one. Yeah, that gorilla. Maybe this is the clue that gets rid of the gorilla. I'm going to keep the flamingo and the toucan. That's my thought. I'm jumping in there.
All right, we just have a couple people left to confirm their votes.
Gorilla and
It's
Penguin.
split somewhat evenly, but technically there is a majority on 4 of them right now. So
Indeed. Oh no, I don't want to get rid of the flamingo. I think the flamingo needs to stay, and it looks like it's going to. Eh? Eh?
you're
We're still
alive.
alive. Okay,
You're still
now
alive. Okay,
this
so
is the critical one.
now, oh man, I gotta. The last one sometimes is the real hard one for me because like, let's see.
I mean, yeah, there is the suit of Abraham Lincoln to this is Similo, uh, J.O. Lovegrove.
Oh man.
So we have
All
one
right.
clue left that is hopefully going to get us to the proper hidden card.
All right, I'm gonna try, y'all. This is
Oh
on
boy.
me.
All right, so he's sort of off the screen. So that is Alexander the Great, king of Macedonia, who conquered the entire Persian Empire. He's got that nose. It's a very strong nose. But both of these characters have strong noses, but the toucan's is stronger. It does seem like I talk like Alan Tudyk's character from Resident Alien a lot more than I used to. Uh, okay, so yeah, all right, I'll support it. Based on the nose, I will go with the toucan as being the one we keep. Come on, Fruit Loops.
You got it!
Woohoo!
Excellent work, y'all. Well played.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you all, somebody nailed it pretty early on saying it was the toucan, and then I just needed to make sure I didn't screw it up after that.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, we should
All right, well,
probably, I think, move on rather than
yeah, we can move
resetting.
on. But yeah, if you all, I know there are a lot of people who are not keen on digital board games, and that's totally cool. But like, if you haven't checked out Board Game Arena recently, there are so many awesome games. And the interface, while it is not super pretty always, it functions very well. And I play games on there multiple times a week at this point, and I really,
Yeah.
really love it. So I'm just saying, if you're somebody that has like avoided it, maybe give it a shot sometime. And also come play games with me because I like playing games on here a lot.
Yes, yes. There's a two-player game in the Abyss universe called Conspiracy, which I just started playing for the first time. That is a lovely implementation on Board Game Arena. Some of them, as you said, are sort of stark. They don't look all that pretty, but this one is gorgeous and is really nice
Yeah.
about the way it gives you information and everything is right there for you to see, and it looks very pretty. So that's one.
Yeah,
to
some
look
of the newer ones have been graphically more interesting. I actually just played a game called Loco Momo last night that I had never heard of that was really interesting and super fun.
Very, very cool. There's just so many to explore. You can there's hundreds of games on there, or maybe it's something like 170 or it's something. Whatever the total is, it's a lot, and you're constantly able to discover games. I'll get invites from people, and I'm like, okay, I'll try it. I have to now read a rule book, but I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
Well, speaking of reading rule books, there are a number of things that people can do in preparation for a game day, Eric.
Yes, indeed.
So, why don't we talk about the ways in which you and I prepare, plan, and execute our perfect game days?
Okay. So just to set the framing, I was focusing on a game day at my home, as opposed
Ditto.
to just like, let's go to the community center for weekly game night sort of thing. This is like an event that you're having at your home, and you're inviting people, and you're going to play some games for whatever period you're going to play. So the first thing that I had asked about is how many people do you want to have for one of these things? What is the ideal number of folks? And I know this really depends on how big your gaming space is. You know, obviously you want to fill it to the right capacity. But I really like, I think my perfect size is around 2 to 3 tables for this sort of thing. And whatever your capacity is, if you have 2 4-player tables or even just one, making sure that you can have turnover on that table, and if somebody wants to sit out for a game, that's not a big deal, but you can move around a little bit. So I think ideally I like around 2 to 3 tables. So for me, that would be about 6 to 8, maybe up to 12, so that you can do a few different tables. People can sit out and flow in and out and mingle and that sort of thing. Where are you thinking on this sort of approach?
I'm in a similar spot. I think for me, generally, I kind of either want to do a small game night where the number of players could all fit in a single game for the entire evening, or I want to go up to an amount that could accommodate 3 tables worth of people, because I think sometimes when I get that like perfect number for like 2 tables, that works great until one table finishes their game well before the other table is done, and then they have to make that awkward decision of, okay, do we play a quick game and wait for them, or do we start another long game? And then you don't get to mingle as much with the other people, which some players are fine with, and I'm obviously generally fine with. But I think the purpose of having a larger game day is kind of to allow people to meet and mingle to some degree. So I like having 3 tables worth of people. And when at my old house pre-pandemic, sometimes that ended up being 2 tables of board games and a group of people in the living room playing Jackbox games or things like that. And I do like providing that other activity sometimes, where if people do want to chill out or just have a snack or a drink or just, socialize, it's easier for them to do that, that rather than just being locked into board games the whole time. Even if we all love board games, sometimes I really do just want to sit on the couch and chill out for a little bit.
Yeah, I like the ability to step away from the heavier stuff and do a quicker activity, or play a party game around the couch, or or just sit around and eat. One of the nice things in this new house is that we have a gaming space and an eating space, and so we don't have to switch out and make clean up the game so that we can have a meal. We can actually step away from the table and eat, and then come back to it and not interrupt the folks who do want to continue gaming, and that's very helpful. So jumping to the what to play at one of these events, it's easy to invite a bunch of people over and say, here's the shelf of games, and what do you want to do? And
then everybody freezes.
Everybody freezes and stares at the shelves and goes, I don't know. Well, what about this one? I don't know about that one. So is there a good framework for getting the games going? Do you find it useful to maybe seed the tables with, all right, well, we're going to play this game because I really want to get it to the table, and then we've got the Jackbox games over here, and then the third table, you can figure that out, but at least this gets the ball rolling, as opposed to standing around and staring at each other for the first 30 minutes at least.
Absolutely. So the way my game group here in Vegas and I tend to operate is we will often have kind of like a group chat in advance of a larger game day where obviously like people might know my collection if I'm hosting, but like my friend Greg will put in the text like, these are the games I'm thinking about bringing, and people can say, oh, I've really been wanting to learn or play X game. So Greg will make sure he brings that, and then that gives us also kind of more of a jumping off point once people arrive. I also generally try to make sure that anyone who brought games with them gets to play at least one of the games that they brought, because generally people are bringing games that they want to play. It's not like they're just grabbing stuff at random generally. And so if we play one of Greg's games, then if Vince brought games, I will be like, Vince, what did you bring? Let's grab, what did you bring? And we'll look through his and we'll say, oh, that one sounds great. Let's play that. And I think that helps narrow down the choices to some degree. And then let's say we've played a couple of games and we've kind of gotten to that freezing up point again. What I will often do at that point, and I've just kind of recently gotten good at this, is rather than pulling a new game off the shelf that has to be taught to everyone, I will defer to an old favorite at that point. Once we've played a couple of new games and we've already burned our brains out a little bit with new rules and new strategies, then I'll say, okay, oh, we've all played this game before. Maybe one of us hasn't. We can teach it to that one player, and it's a little bit easier and more approachable for the group. Yeah. And that tends to work pretty well for me, because I think because my group really likes playing new games, we tend to forget to go back to some of the old favorites. We recently put Quacks of Quedlinburg back on the table. One of my friends hadn't played it. The rest of us have. And I was like, oh, you haven't played Quacks of Quedlinburg. We got to make sure you learn that one. And it was a delightful time.
Yeah, and it's just easier, you get the enthusiasm of getting to teach somebody one of your old favorites, and you can sort of rediscover it. I found that that becomes my convention strategy at some point as well. I'm sort of burned out by like halfway through Saturday of learning new games, and so then usually on Sunday I'm just throwing out stuff I know how to play. I'm going to teach some new people this because I know it and can jump into it and get it to the table quickly. So I totally understand that when it keeps the ball rolling.
And something that I've noticed can be problematic is I try and generally surround myself with very kind humans, which sounds great until everyone is deferring to everyone else's choice. Like, oh, I don't care, I'll play anything. Yes. If everyone says that, then no decisions ever get made. And so I have realized that give people options, and when everyone says, I don't care, you just have to make a decision and run with it. And then if someone has a strong opinion, yay or nay, they can express it at that point. But sometimes, especially as the host, you just have to pull something off the shelf and be like, this is what we're playing.
I know I've mentioned our pick list that my game group has used, where everybody sort of has their name on a list, and you are periodically in charge of choosing the game that hits the table. And that does two things. It makes sure that everyone's favorites eventually make it there, or the game that they want to play makes it happen. But it also forces somebody to choose. You know, if it is your pick, you need to choose something. And no one gets to say, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? It's this person's turn to pick. And you could be doing that at one of these events as well, and saying, or picking everyone's names out of a hat. If you don't know which direction to go, if you aren't headed in a particular direction at those pre-game day chats, to say, all right, it's Larry's pick, go for it. And then sort of get the ball rolling in that direction.
I actually recently attended an in-person game night at someone else's house, and it was with a group of casual gamers, not hobby gamers. Some people in the group have dabbled in hobby games, like there were things like One Night Ultimate Werewolf and Bang the Dice game and things like that present, but generally the games that got brought were, more mass market, more party game style. And something that this host did that I thought that was really neat and had never seen before, they actually had a full whiteboard, which I'm sure they utilize for other reasons generally. But what they did is they had people who brought games put the name of the game on the whiteboard, and then people who were interested in playing that game could put their name underneath it. So then at a certain point, you can look at the whiteboard and say, oh, 5 people were interested in playing Strike, which Crystal brought. Let's do it. And so that kind of made it easier, especially in there was a larger group of people. Like, I don't know how many total there were, but that helped divvy things up a little bit as well.
It's a lot harder to keep track when you get into like the 15 plus for larger game events. That's harder to keep track of who's interested in what.
Absolutely.
Moving on to food. Now, I know I am huge. I already mentioned wanting to keep the food and the games as separate as possible. I'm okay with bringing some snacks or food to the game room if they're on a side table. Those little wooden tray tables that I put the game on here, those are lifesavers. I love those things. To keep the food over here and the game over here, I'm very big on that.
Should I not tell you the story of the time that I had a really big game day at my old house, and my friend, who happens to be a little klutzy, took his entire plate of Italian food and walked toward the game table, tripped, and dumped the entire thing on the poker table. Like, marinara everywhere.
Oh,
the same friend on a separate occasion tripped and broke a lamp. So this was not necessarily unexpected, but I will admit it was one of those moments where the whole room kind of just went, and thankfully the felt on that poker table is resilient and mostly cleanable. But that was interesting. Don't serve Italian food in the game room is what I'm saying.
Yep. Yes. But as far as structure of how you want to serve food, there's a lot of different directions you could go. There's the game night plan of, well, all right, as soon as it gets to dinner time, we're going to put out some menus and order from a couple places and get some Chinese or pizza or whatever and just bring all that in. You could make it a potluck and say, everybody bring some stuff. You could do sort of somewhere in between where you grill burgers as the host, or make some chili. We've done chili in a crock pot as the base, and then have everybody bring all the side dishes and make it a potluck, a sort of a focused potluck in that direction. And you could also cater the darn thing. You could say, hey, we're gonna bring in those Schaefer trays or something like that. If it's a large
the
enough
Italian food was catered. It was a lovely time, and yeah, just don't bring it near the game table. But yes, I vouch for, especially if you're having a large game day with lots of people. You can have people Venmo you cash in advance and then just order food and have it brought in, and that really can work well.
Yeah, I mean, I like having a food plan rather than just like stopping and saying, all right, we should, having it be like 7 o'clock and realize you haven't planned for food. It's much better to have that plan in motion already and, plan a delivery in advance or plan that you will order at such and such a time and just know that that's what's going to happen. But I also like the potluck idea because it means that anybody that has, particular dietary restrictions can bring something that they can eat. Plus, you get that sharing of games and sharing of food. It's kind of a cool collaborative experience if you can make that all work out. That's sort of my preferred way to do it. I think I like the let's grill burgers or hot dogs, or let's make a bowl of chili, and everybody else brings everything else, and it becomes a collaborative event.
Yeah, I kind of do the same. I've definitely done stuff on the grill. At one point, separate from the Italian catering incident, we actually, a friend of mine brought a giant pot and cooked up a big mess of spaghetti. But honestly, my go-to tends to be pizza, just because it's easy and comparatively, you can feed a lot of people for less money generally with pizza. And so what I'll do is I will order the pizzas, and I will not ask for money from my friends. I'll handle the pizzas, and then I ask them to bring drinks and desserts. So that way, I don't have to worry about 2 liters of soda or, anything else like that. And I don't have to worry about dessert. I can just order the pizzas. They bring the rest of the stuff. And that tends to work out pretty well. And pizza, I mean, obviously sometimes dietary restrictions aside, tends to be universally liked as well. And so it's it's easier than ordering from like a fancy restaurant or something like that, where everybody has to look at the menu, pick the specific dish they want. It's like, here's the pizza. So it's just easier.
Right. And pizza's generally really quick too. You can walk away from the table and eat a piece or two and then be back pretty fast. Whereas, other meals are more messy and require more setup and serving and all of that. Just grabbing a piece is really simple. And it keeps relatively well. So like later in the evening, you're still hungry, you can grab another piece that happens to be on the table still.
Absolutely. And we've done that before, where we'll kind of start the game day with food, especially if we're starting in the evening, like around 6 p.m. I will have the pizzas there when people get there, so everybody can eat and get satisfied. And then, to your point, if somebody ends up showing up late, well, here, the pizza's already here, just go eat some when you get here.
Right.
And then everybody can hop into gaming after that.
Plus, it while you're eating, gives everybody a chance to figure out what you're going to play. Larry, it's
True
your turn.
story.
Pick something while you're chewing.
Well, and not just picking what you're going to play, but I have found, because obviously my game group did not meet for a very long time during the pandemic, in the limited times we have met since then, we've had a lot of catching up that we wanted to do. And it wasn't like we planned for that, but we have ended up sitting around just chatting more than we used to, because when we were seeing each other weekly, there was less to catch up on. And now it's like, oh, like, how are you doing? What's your situation? And I've really enjoyed that, just the commiseration and the camaraderie that has come from those game days as well. But then sometimes you are like, wait, I did want to play a game. Can we play a game now?
So what do you think of doing a theme night, a theme day, playing certain styles of games or themes of games, even dressing up or making particular food for a particular type of game, or playing music in the background that fits a theme? Where do you fall on that general spectrum?
In general, I like coming up with those types of ideas, but I never execute on them, because I think, at least for me and my game group, we do kind of tend to, like, we like to plan out certain things, but then we also do like to be flexible. And I don't ever want to prescribe completely what's going to happen at a game night, because you don't always know exactly who's going to show up or how many or what the vibe is going to be. Sometimes people's energy levels are higher or lower, and I like having the flexibility to change things on the fly. So in that regard, choosing the types of games in advance, I've never really I've thought, I want to do that. Like I've considered doing a game day where we play games that were only published before a certain year. Like avoid the new hotness. Let's play older games. But I've never actually executed that because inevitably a new game just came out and Greg just got it and we kind of want to play that. So it's and then music I'm down for depending on the game. Some games have music that's built into companion apps and things like that.
Right.
And I definitely have put, like, when we've been playing a big epic game, I'll put on like an Alan Silvestri playlist with, movie scores and things like that. So music is fine. I've never thought to dress up as part of a game day. I think generally for me, I want to be real comfy, especially if I'm going to be playing board games for a large number of hours. And when I dress up, I tend to go all out, and those costumes end up usually not being super comfortable. So
yeah.
I like the idea of it, but I don't tend to do that stuff at my house.
Yeah. As Mr. Coaster mentions in the chat, themed music can be useful if everybody is playing the same style of game. It's weird if one table has the adventure game that you're playing the movie soundtracks for, and then somebody else is trying to play Ark Nova or something. But it can be distracting if the music gets too loud or too intense when somebody's trying to think, and you're like, come on, Joe, make your move, and I can't. The Imperial March is in my head. So I can see how it's really a preference thing, and I tend to, if I'm going to have music playing, to have it very soft in the background and just sort of there more as an ambiance thing and not a mood setting thing.
Yeah. Hornist in the chat did mention Strike Tournament Gladiator costume. I do technically own a Gladiator costume that I did wear for an online Strike tournament, but that wasn't an in-person game day. But now I'm thinking I should put on the Gladiator costume sometime when friends are coming over and just be like, we're playing Strike tonight. And I know that they would, but that costume wasn't super uncomfortable. The arm things were not great, but yeah, I could hold my 6 copies of Strike dressed as a gladiator.
I don't think I have enough costumes to make costumed game nights work. I just don't think that would.
I technically also, when I played the escape room game that was mall themed, I dressed up as Robin Sparkles. So I don't get dressed up in costume when I'm hosting friends over, but I have dressed in costume in relation to the games that I've been playing. Okay. So
sure.
Yeah. That's happened.
Speaking of the older games, we at one point were doing an unloved list. So to sort of get away from the new hotness, the first game that would be played each meeting would be one of these older games that hadn't seen playtime in a while. To sort of remind us of what these games were like and sort of also decide whether this should stick around in our host's collection. But it was kind of a nice thing to do, to know that the first game of the day, or at least one of the tables of the day, would be one of these older games. So I kind of like that focus of, we're going to play some old stuff this week.
I think that's definitely executable. Like, I think I could do that, and my game group would be down for it. I just have never ended up executing it.
Well, we talked about invites, we've talked about the layout, we've talked about the mood, the food, and what to play. That's my list. Anything else on your recipe for making an amazing game day, Crystal?
So I would actually say that the invite list potentially could also be something that you think about, especially if you have different levels of gamers in your life. In the past, because I love board games so much, I have often hosted gatherings at my residence that board games factored into heavily, but were not entirely about board games. Kind of similar to what I mentioned earlier when there was Jackbox games going on. I would often invite, for a birthday of mine, generally what I would want to do on my birthday is hang out with all my friends. And so I would invite lots of people over, some of whom are hardy board gamers and some of whom are less so, willing to play lighter games but not as so much into it. And I think that needs to be factored in like who you're inviting and then also what you plan as a result of that, because I always want to make sure that I don't end up with somebody stuck in a really heavy game that doesn't really like that kind of thing. And conversely, I don't want to do just Jackbox games if I'm hanging out with all of my friends that like really heavy Euros, because that, those things aren't necessarily going to vibe. And so I will try to, especially if it's a smaller game day, I will try to make sure that all of the attendees are kind of on somewhat of a similar level in what they enjoy doing. So that way, when you do have to mix and match groups, everybody kind of just naturally fits in with one another. Or at least I make people aware, this is what's going to be happening at this game day. It's going to be heavier games today or lighter games today. If that's not your vibe, feel free to not join us. So I think that it's not about omitting people. It's about making sure everyone is comfortable with what's going to be happening.
Setting expectations, I think, is important. Yeah, you don't want somebody to show up expecting to play Arc Nova or the latest Vital Lacerda when you're going to play, like, the most heavy thing you're going to do is Catan or Ticket to Ride. And they might not appreciate having hauled their entire Lacerda collection over to your house, not knowing that wasn't going to hit the table.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a few minutes left in the show, Eric. So I think it's about time for us to make an announcement.
It is indeed. So this is a tough one. We are having to end the show. It is always difficult to walk away from something that you love doing and a group of people that you love hanging out with, but Crystal and I are moving on to other projects, and Dice Tower Tonight, in its current incarnation, is going to end. Not right away. We have one more month to go. We're going to do 2 more episodes, one in 2 weeks and one 2 weeks after that. And then we'll step away. And we want to express our love for all of you who have spent time with us in the chat, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching later on and don't get to hang out with us live. We appreciate, even if you've only shown up once, and especially those of you who have shown up week after week and hung out with us. It has been a wonderful experience doing this show. And it has been wonderful getting to hang out with Crystal over all these years and getting to know her and being a team putting on this show for all of you. And as such, we want to make sure that we end on a high note in those last 2 episodes. So here's what we're going to do. Next episode, 2 weeks from now, we're going to do a recap. We want to remember our favorite moments from Dice Tower Tonight. And we sort of need your help to figure some of these out. We're going to try and show...
Yes, please.
Absolutely. We're going to do a clip show or a few selections, as many as we can manage to find. So if there is something that you have seen in an episode of Dice Tower Tonight and you have loved it, please let us know. Crystal at Dicetower.com or Eric at Dicetower.com. Let us know what episode it was, about when it was in the episode, or what we were doing that you really, really liked. And we're going to try and put together as many of those clips as we can to just have a grand old time reliving some of our favorite moments from the past several years of this program. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to do a Game-o-palooza. An extravaganza of games. Kind of like what we did for episode 100 some time ago now, where we're just going to do a cavalcade of fun games with us and the chat and all of you hanging out with us as sort of a grand finale to the show. So if there's a game that you have really, really loved, again, Crystal at Dicetower.com, Eric at Dicetower.com, let us know what you'd like to play.
This show was not created for Eric and I. It was a show that Tom and Eric started that I hopped into by complete happenstance one week when Eric's power was out. And then Tom very quickly realized that Eric and I were having a lot of fun and he didn't need to be here anymore.
Nope.
And so he just said bye, and it's been Eric and I by ourselves now for it's been so many years now. And I am incredibly grateful for Eric, your friendship and how we've gotten to know each other both through this show. And all of the really neat things that we've gotten to experience as a result of that, whether that's streaming live from a convention with bad internet where, Z and Roy are popping their heads in behind us randomly, whether that's playing games with the chat, some of which work and some of which definitely didn't work, but you all were there along for the ride with us. And I think I love making live content because of those things. Like a very polished, produced video is great, but that's not what I love doing. I love the on-the-fly interactions and the mishaps and me breaking a Honga board in half live on the internet, which if anyone knows what episode that was, feel free to, it's gonna be in the clip reel, but I don't know what episode that was. So if anyone knows when I broke the Honga board, that will definitely be featured next time. I'm sad to not be able to do this show anymore, but I will take with me a lot of really, really wonderful memories. And Eric and I currently, I saw a comment in the chat about asking about future plans. Eric and I do not currently have another plan for at least the two of us together doing a thing. But, if anybody has an idea or would like to see us do something together in the future, feel free to include that in your email to us as well. Eric and I definitely would like to work together more in the future. So we just don't have a current plan for that. Kabuki
Sure.
Kid. We know that this is one of the, I think it's the only live show that is in the nighttime in the States. And so we get to hit a few people who don't get to see live content here on the Dice Tower very often. And we love you all very, very much, and we will miss you after the show ends. And we wanted to give the show a proper send-off. So hopefully we will be able to do it justice. But y'all, please, if every single one of you clicked on a random old episode of Dice Tower Tonight and scrubbed through it and found a great moment, that would be so helpful because it's a lot. I mean, 117 episodes, that's 117 hours of content.
It is.
Plus, because we took Tim to run a little long.
We do.
And I'm going to be spending a lot of time scrubbing through episodes to find those great moments. And truly, I can pick the ones that are my favorites, but I want to know what you all loved. So if you don't send me clips, then you just get to see the moments I liked. You don't get to see anything else. So yes, please, y'all, especially if you can do stuff in the next few days. I'm hoping to do some work putting clips together this weekend or next weekend, I guess, technically as well. So we would really appreciate your help in that regard, and to let us know what games you want to see in the Game-O-Palooza for the final episode. I'll say to you, Eric, I think we have to play just one as one of the games, right?
I think absolutely we'll be playing just one. There are
which
some
we
favorites
actually
that
haven't played in a long time. I feel it's been a while.
You're right; it has been a while. We've had a couple others that we've circled back to, but just one. It's been a while. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's one. We'll have to figure out the rest.
Yep. So thank you to everyone who does send us emails. And honestly, if you just want to email us, and even if you don't have timestamps, but you have favorite moments from the show or things that you like about the show, we would love to hear from you, truly. I don't get almost any emails in my Dice Tower inbox aside from spam, so it's really nice to see something other than spam show up.
There you go. Yes, yes. And while you're here, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Many of you have done so already. We do appreciate that. That keeps the algorithms happy and keeps the old episodes at the top of folks' lists so that they can discover the old backlog as well and have fun with us in the past. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. We talk about future Eric sometimes, but past Eric is a hoot. He really is. So
it's very, very true. I got to figure out a way for future Eric to show up somewhere, maybe in the future.
Oh. Well, on that note, y'all, we will wrap things up for the evening. We might next week do a little bit of Q&A as in addition to the clip show. So if you all have any burning questions that you've been wanting to ask us and you haven't done that yet, prepare those in advance or email them to us. Theoretically, we'll take whatever we can get for these last two shows. We want to make it all about you all.
Yep.
We want to kind of give this gift to you all as a thank you for all of your years of support. So we will join you again for our penultimate episode in 2 weeks. And that will be on April 6th.
Yes.
It is a Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And then our final episode will be on April 20th.
Yes.
That's 2 weeks. April 20th, again, which is a Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So until our next episode, I'm Crystal Dax.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight.
Thank you for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Crystal and I will see you in 2 weeks for a fun-filled recap show. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thank you. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Crystal and me with assistance from Tom Vassell, Mike DeLisio, Roy Kennedy, Chris Yee, and Rob Searing. Our answer to the question, you know what they call an Alexander Pfister-themed burger in Paris? Provided by a Port Royal with cheese. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by GameNerds.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at Crystal@Dicetower.com or Eric@Dicetower.com. You can hear more from Crystal on the Board Game Blitz podcast, and I can soon be found giving Tom a hard time on At the Table with Tom and Eric, premiering April 4th. Find those shows and more at Dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
Good
night, everybody.
Bye,
We love
everyone.
you.
We love you.